Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be part 2 of the Summer House Season 8 recap. My name is Erin Sugarman. Thanks so much for being here. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And let's get right into it.
Paris, yeah. A couple weeks ago, I took some new pictures for my portfolio, and I've been looking for some New York representation, and so it looks like I'm about this close to signing with someone in New York. Getting signed is amazing. I didn't think that would happen, so
I will just say that I'm not someone who really likes Sierra too much. Like, I just find her kind of bland. Like, I don't know how she's survived this many seasons on the show, because I just don't feel like she gives us that much. Like, no offense to her, but just like, yeah. It seems like she just kind of rides Paige and Amanda's coattails.
I try not to let myself get too excited.
Lindsay and I are getting married November 17th.
Yes, sir.
I really wanted you to be a part of our wedding.
I'd be honored.
Oh, God.
I would love for you to be a flower boy.
I've known Carl for like a decade.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy officiated my wedding. He was my co-best man. In my mind, I'm just like, bro, you've been like one of my best friends, you know, for a hot minute.
So, first of all, I just realized they released another drink line because him and Amanda, but actually I think he's the owner, but they're married. Anyway, so they have a drink company called Loverboy where they do like, it's sort of like a, what would you call it? Like a hard tea and seltzer. It competes with like the, I'm forgetting the name, the White Claws. It's like a more sophisticated White Claw, essentially. And they just released another like sister line called, or brother line, maybe it's in this case, called Flower Boy. And I just realized, like, I don't know if that's like where it comes from. It has like, I think THC, actually. I don't know if it's CBD or THC, but I think it's actually THC is what's in that. So it's not like, it doesn't have alcohol in it, but it has like that in it. But I just like made that connection. I do think that whole thing, again, I think this is another example of like just a shitty situation, you know? And I think sometimes the more you study the human psyche, and also the more you just see things play out from both people's perspective, you know, because a lot of times in life you don't get the full picture, because you might only know one of two people involved in an altercation, or you know, you're closer to like the husband or the wife, whatever it is. Like, a lot of times you don't get to like actually see both sides of things play out like you do on TV. And I think, to me, like, the more I watch stuff like this, it's just clearer that, you know, usually I would say there's not really a right or a wrong, or like one person who's 100% right, one person who's wrong, you know, one hero, one villain. And usually it's actually a lot more nuanced. And it's like two people who misunderstand each other, who get hurt, and, you know, whose intentions are good, but like, they just misunderstand each other and people get hurt, and it's really unfortunate, because I think Carl was trying to find a way to include Kyle in the wedding that wasn't going to like upset Lindsay, and I think it was fair for Lindsay to be uncomfortable with having Kyle be like a best man in their wedding, when the year before he made like all these disparaging comments about her and their relationship. Like, you know, regardless of if they love each other deep down and all the stuff I said in the last video in part 1, I still think it's like, you know, it's your wedding, it's up to you. Like, it's all about what you're comfortable with, what you want. And I think it's fair to like not want someone like that. Like, if someone was making comments like that about me, and then my husband still wanted them to be in the wedding, I think I also would like not be okay with that. And I think this was kind of a way for them to have him still be a part of it, but not sort of like an actual groomsman. But I think for Kyle, you know, I think he was very hurt by that because Carl was a best man in his wedding, or he was a best man or a groomsman, but at the very least a groomsman. And I think, you know, he felt like it was kind of an insult where, you know, because usually it's a flower girl and it's like a young child. It's, you know, it's like it's usually someone like under the age of 12. And I think because of that, I think it felt just kind of insulting. And I can totally like see that because I just think it didn't like, I think he could have presented it better. And, you know, so I think it was just one of those like unfortunate things. And I think Carl, his intentions were good, but I think maybe if he'd presented it and just been a little bit more candid with Kyle, maybe it wouldn't have like felt as devastating to him.
You were more expecting more that kind of role, which I understand because, you know, I remember when we were
me the groomsman that's on the far right. But like, I've been by his side through thick and thin. I'm just embracing the new normal. I'm just like not as an important piece in his life.
How would you honestly?
I think he's hurt, but I think that's, you know, the right reaction to have.
Scale 1
Like,
to 10.
2.5.
I do have to give him credit for that.
You have to have sex. I mean, we had sex today, but it was the first time in a couple weeks. No one came, but no.
My God, TMI, girl.
I've always been patient with Carl. Like, I just have. Like, I love this man so
I don't know
much.
if that's
and I
true.
know that he wants to make me.
I'm sorry, but Lindsay, you know thyself, right? Like, I'm not a very patient person. Lindsay is not a very patient person. Like, I appreciate what she's trying to say, but I'm just like, ooh, yikes. And also, like, it's a lot of information.
But if someone is not ambitious and is matching my drive, that's a little bit of an issue for me. Having to like constantly light a fire for someone else is not that sexy. And it doesn't really get my juices flowing.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that though. Like, I understand where she's coming from on that, and I'm gonna avoid going down another rabbit hole, but I could go on a whole sort of talk about like archetypes and this whole like Jungian psychology thing of like the inner masculine and feminine, and like, you know, I get it though. I think she needs to feel secure by having her partner, not having to constantly push her partner or to like motivate him. She needs to feel like he can do those things himself. I think it kind of goes back to the whole like mom mode thing I talked about in part 1 with Kyle and Amanda, where I think she doesn't want to feel like his mom and like she has to kind of like parent him. And when she does, that just like it's like the biggest turn off in the world. And that's not just true for them. That tends to be true pretty universally. Like when you bring parent energy into a relationship, it's just like the biggest turn off. And because like parenting and sexuality don't really like meld together. And so usually when couples struggle with that kind of dynamic or that happening, then you have to figure out how to stop getting into the dynamic of like one or the other person being the parent to the other. And you know, I get what she means, because I've definitely been in that situation before where I felt like I have to be more of like, I have to sort of like mother someone, and then I don't really feel very like interested in them sexually. So, you know, it makes sense. I just think the way she dealt with it was not great by talking to everybody in the house except to Carl about it.
really wants to
Oh,
have
you guys
sex
have,
with
like,
you.
yeah.
Oh, I basically just like, can you go out and have sex with me? Because I really want to.
I don't even know what he's like looking for, like what he even wants. What are we really doing here? Just like making out on the weekends and during the week. Maybe I wish I was the type that could just sleep with anyone and not give a. But I think sex is an intimate thing, and people are much quicker to be vulnerable in that way, and like won't even tell you their feelings or like.
I
be
do agree with
emotional
her on
about it.
that.
That to me is so ass backwards that I can't even wrap my head around it. I'm not hopping into bed with anyone unless you can tell me how you feel about me. Sorry,
And I mean, good
look
for
at
her. I think her having those boundaries with West was great, and I think it ended up working in her favor because of how West treated her, as we found out also, like, once the season ended. You know, and unfortunately I think he was more looking just for a physical relationship, and you know, good for her for like sticking to her guns there.
Not gonna. Actually, I'm not. I'm sorry.
I have a guy come in for whoever wants him.
You have a guy coming?
Not for me. I'm very action oriented. I'm a Capricorn after all. So my eye is on that prize. May the best single lady win. Or the most, I was gonna say thirsty, but I shouldn't.
I mean, listen, I do think there was a bunch of commentary online about Lindsay sort of like pitting two women of color against each other in this like contest for a guy, and how it's reminiscent of the way that white people would treat people of color in the past, and like how it's performative and exploitative, and I do think there's some truth to that, whether or not I think it's one of those things where I don't think Lindsay was like conscious of that and saying like, let me pit them against each other to compete for a guy. But I think it's one of those ways, and it's actually a great example of how racism is internalized and how it's happens and lives in this way that it's not conscious. Like, you unconsciously orchestrate situations in which those kind of racial dynamics play out. It's exactly the same, really, as like how you orchestrate situations that recreate your family dynamics from early childhood. Like, it's no different. It's just a different scope where we're talking about something systemic and historical and that's been in place for like hundreds, if not thousands of years, versus like a family history that's a lot more microscopic. But I just think that's like what is playing out here. It just was unconsciously orchestrated. And you know, maybe now I'll get into my whole thing about Danielle, because you know, the last two seasons were just not kind to her, and she wasn't kind to herself. You know, she didn't do herself any favors, but she's someone I've always liked, and I think to me she's a breath of fresh air on the show, because a lot of the cast members come from wealth and privilege in some way, and she did not, and was raised by a single mom in New Jersey, and has really worked for like everything she has. And I think, you know, has really tried to like make it in STEM, and you know, has faced a lot of adversity as a woman of color in these male dominated industries. It, you know, has built, regardless of what you think of her app Dawn, I think it's just great that she's been willing to like put herself out there and risk so much in order to do something that is not like, there's not many women out there like building apps. Like, it's a very, very bro heavy space and industry. And I just appreciate like who she is as a person. I find myself like drawn to her personality and, you know, her quirkiness and her like intelligence. And I think she adds something to the show, because a lot of people don't have that same sort of ambition, or they don't, they're not intellectual. They're not driven in the same way. And yeah, like I think her whole relationship with Robert really did a number on her from what I can tell, and I think she's had a hard time recovering from that. And before that, like I rewatched a couple of early seasons of Summer House, and when was that? Maybe a few months ago, and I forgot actually that she hadn't had a boyfriend, like any type of boyfriend, in years, because she was dating someone else in like season 3, I think. And she had mentioned actually to Paige at the time, because they weren't like enemies yet, that she hadn't had like an actual boyfriend, I think in like 8 years or something, like a long ass time. And I think that was the only boyfriend she had other than Robert. And I think there's a lot to unpack there. I know also like she grew up without her dad, and I think there's a lot of things she's avoiding and hasn't really like actually addressed that have caused her to sort of either sabotage or like pick men who are not totally available or who don't appreciate her, because she's very pretty, like she's a very attractive girl, she's very smart, she has a lot going for her. And you know, and then that whole situation like with Joe from Southern Charm and that guy on Winter House, and like good lord, I mean, she just like, she tends to go after these people who just don't even want anything to do with her and don't treat her well. And you know, I think there's plenty of guys out there who would be great for her and that would want to be with her. And, you know, the question is, why is she not picking them? Why is she not pursuing them? Why is she not with them? And, you know, I think that probably goes back to like whatever like deeper issues are there. And, you know, but at the same time though, she's not like a Paige where she's said like, oh, I don't, you know, I'm not ready to settle down, like that type of thing. Because if anything, she's like 35 now, I believe. She's actually a few years older than Paige, who's 32. And you can tell I'm a fan of the show. And if anything, like when she is with people, she really like when she was with Robert, you know, they moved in together quickly. She would travel around with him because he was a chef. And like in the way he was a chef, he would go and do residencies and do these like shorter gigs. And she would always like travel with him and really take care of him. And I always thought she was like a great girlfriend. And if anything, like she's been hard on Paige for like not giving more to Craig and for not like, you know, really like fully committing to him. So which is interesting, right? Like I don't think she isn't a relationship girl, and that's why she's like single at her age. I think there's some like deeper work that she has to do before she's gonna like be able to find someone good to like settle down with. But anyway, okay.
Hi.
I talked for too long.
You look like you. Nice to meet you. We were just talking to Abby about Balloon Guy.
Okay,
Danielle?
No, because Danielle's all over it.
You get me another limoncello from that there balloon?
Yes,
This bartender, please.
You guys.
She is a flirt, but she isn't like a natural flirt.
let's go. Come on, my little girl. You're gonna do great.
I'm not nervous about it. What's not gonna happen is me versus Danielle over someone who blows up balloons as a hobby.
I mean, like, that says it all. And this is what I mean by, like, Exhibit A of the unconscious racism orchestration of pitting these two women against this guy who, like, just is a complete schmuck. Let's be real.
He actively cheated on me with you.
He
I'm not gonna let that happen again.
See what I
I'm
mean
also
by like she
terrified
doesn't
to let it
pick
happen
good
again.
men?
So even if I do like a guy, it's probably gonna seem like I don't, which, you know, might be a problem.
Last night when we were at the club, I went outside with Kyle and Danielle, and like she kind of like tried to grill the out of me. She was like, Craig gives you everything and you give Craig nothing. And I just said that? Yeah, and I just kind of let it go. But like, if we're looking on paper, you have no job, no boyfriend. I have a job and a boyfriend. So like, I don't know what you're telling me I should change.
I mean, this is the side of Paige that I don't like, which is, I mean, I think she can be mean. She can demean people when she feels attacked. Like that's what I've seen over time. And, I don't think Danielle was trying to attack her either. I think she was just being frank. And I think Paige, I think also in part, I think it was probably a little bit true. Because, you know, I mean, there's so many, just look at every internet comment about how Paige was stringing Craig along, was like giving him nothing, as Danielle said. And, you know, we have found that to be true. And I think it was probably hit a little bit too close to home for Paige. And so I think that insecurity caused her to like fire back. And, you know, Danielle has been building an app, and it's not like she hired, by the way, like this is a lot of people like build an app, but they hire a developer to actually like essentially build it, like write all the code for it. But Danielle, she and her co-founder have built the entire app. Like they haven't hired a development team. She's been the one coding the app and building it. And so like it's taken a lot of work because of that. And this is one of those things I think Paige just like, because of how privileged she is, she just like doesn't get it. And, you know, Paige doesn't have a job any more than Danielle does. Paige, you know, has a podcast, does Amazon Lives, and like posts on Instagram. I don't see how that's like more of a job though. And if anything, I think Danielle has more of a job in that she's built an app, is trying to get funding for it, get it off the ground. Like that's a lot. That's, you know, having a startup is like no joke, as anyone who's worked in one, had one, seen anyone work one knows. Like it's like more than a job's worth of work. And I just think Paige is just trying to, there's no need for Paige to belittle her. Like, and I think she does this in order to like feel superior when she, you know, when something like this hits too close to home.
Yeah, like what are you doing wrong? It's weird for her to come off as like that judgmental. She's very quick to tell everyone how they should be living their lives and like what they're doing in their lives, what she finds to be wrong. And
I do think that's
I feel like
somewhat
Danielle
true.
is like foaming at the mouth to say anything about Carl and Lindsay, but she can't because she knows what happened to her last year. So she's like, who can I?
But see, that's like last year. It's like people are quick to forget. Paige was one of the people at the forefront who were like encouraging Danielle to talk shit about Carl and Lindsay. Hello? Did you forget? Like, is your scrunchie pulled too tight that you forgot? I mean, that's exactly what I'm referring to when I say that she can be mean and vindictive. And I think she can be very manipulative by like kind of switching the scripts like that, where last year she was like giving Danielle all of this support and encouraging her to confront Lindsay. And this year it's like, well, she can't say anything about Carl and Lindsay's relationship because we saw how that went for her last year. Like, you know, I think that's very two-faced. And I do think, though, I do agree with Paige in that I do think Danielle does often, I would say it as she deflects from the insecurity she has about her life and her lack of relationship and whatever else by commenting on other people's lives and relationships, like often unsolicited. Like I do think there's truth to that, but I think she's just saying all of this because, again, I think she feels slighted and is just like, as a result, just trying to really take Danielle down.
Pick apart now who's around, and here I am.
I need to know that, like, I have a partner that's also doing anything to bring in any type of money, because for me, I need that security.
I mean, if you want me to go get a job, I will go get a job.
And
Great.
even if that means moving on with Loverboy again, I just want a priority for you is like making money for our future family.
Yeah. I understand that I have a partner that is a go-getter and just wants the best for me. And I just think she gets scared and fearful about getting married to someone who doesn't have his career figured out. I'll give her that, but it's scary to have a partner that doesn't believe fully in you and like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Carlo, that's because of your actions, and you haven't done anything to show her that you're going to get your shit together, you're going to get a job. You know, I think it was great in that moment that he expressed willingness to do that, but I think, you know, because they'd kind of been having this same conversation for a year, I think, you know, it's like anything where she just didn't take him very seriously because he's said things like this before, and like a year later still doesn't have a solid plan or even just understanding of what it is he does want to do with his life.
No matter what, you're gonna get it figured out. I know I can do it. I just need my partner to believe that.
Oh, this guy's hot as hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm also laying that groundwork too.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
didn't even flirt. Like with Joe, it was not giving flirtation.
I knew that I was giving closed off when I just met this guy.
Yeah, you were. Sure.
I don't think that's fair. No. I'm interested in this guy too. You should get him before I do. Like, do I need to put myself out there a little bit more? Absolutely. But why are you?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately Danielle like took the bait that they were giving of like pitting them against each other, and because I don't think otherwise she would have like essentially said that to Gabby, but I also think like it is shitty to like say that to a friend, and you know, I think it was noble of Gabby to say like, fuck this competition. You know, I don't need to compete with you for a guy.
Kind of competition with me. That is like the worst way to motivate me whatsoever.
You made your friend cry.
I
You're
didn't
saying
make her
it's stupid.
cry.
Well, she's crying because of the shit you said to her. I'm just bringing it to your attention. And you're saying it's stupid, she's crying.
I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm just saying like
You
this
think
is.
that you are a moral compass, that everything
I am
you
not
think
a
is
moral
so
compass.
that
I
you're
think that you want to try to
you're the
project that on me, and it's real cute.
on what you should say.
No, it's not true. That's just simply not true.
I just said to you, you made your friend cry. You said that's stupid. She shouldn't be crying about it. That's you thinking your opinion is more important than hers or her feelings.
I just don't think that I did that.
I'm telling you that she just said you did.
Always thought about doing swimsuits because having like bigger boobs and having to find the brand.
I didn't understand this scene that they filmed in an Old Navy. Like, I didn't understand it. This is one of those scenes where I felt like it was very produced, and stuff like that is like an instant turn off to me.
When I was younger, I had big dreams of being a fashion designer. In high school, I took a fashion design class, but my inability to sew shut down those hopes and dreams. But
I mean, it
can
will do that.
design, and I know what I like.
If you want to be a designer, you kind of have to learn how to sew. Like, if you know anything about, I'm not even just saying that flippantly, I'm saying that as someone who at one point did want to be a fashion designer. And like it is a thing. It's kind of like wanting to be an artist, but like not knowing how to do art. Like, it's kind of important. Unless, you know, you're just like a zillionaire who can just like fund everyone else doing these things. But, which, you know, granted, Amanda's more in that position where she could do like a licensing deal or like do something where she's working with actual design, more guiding the designers to make things in the way that she would like them. You know, if anything, she's like, and I know she's doing like some kind of swimsuit line, so she's doing that now, but I'm just saying, girl, maybe think about taking some sewing classes. Like, I watch, there's a YouTuber I watch, Taylor Morello, who is lovely, and she actually just posted a video about learning to sew and has been taking sewing classes in New York City. So I know it's something Amanda could do if she pushed herself.
So it just seems like it's time for me to maybe create my own thing.
You came to Pittsburgh Memorial Day weekend, and you were really hurting.
Yeah, we've
and it was out of your relationship that almost appeared to be abusive.
This is the conversation with his stepdad that I think I mentioned kind of in the beginning of the video that I do think was like it was just not appropriate. I don't think he should have been going to his stepdad. Like, I think in general, when you go to family with these kind of relationship issues, it just doesn't turn out well.
I don't share every nitty-gritty fight we've had. Like back in May, around Memorial Day, when Lindsay and I had a large fight, I decided to go back to Pittsburgh for a few days, and I left that house, and they were concerned. I'm not going to sit here and say it's all on her. It's not.
I mean, you get married because of the relationship you have. But if the relationship you have, you're fearful and it's not working the way you want it to work, getting married isn't going to solve that.
That is true.
You're such a big personality. There's a lot of times that I feel like I live in your shadow.
I want to support you in whatever you want to do, but I also need your help.
I'm not leaving the team. I'm not leaving the company, but that may be a little bit selfish. Think about all the sacrifices that I made for you. I stopped my stuff, and I quit my job, and I left the things that I was doing.
You were working for
I know, but I had my own career. I was like,
yeah, I mean, yikes. I think there's so much I could say here. I do think Amanda should, this is one of those things where like sometimes you shouldn't make sacrifices if like later on you're going to be resentful of having made that sacrifice and like you didn't actually really want to do it. You just did it because you felt like you should, or your partner was pressuring you to, or whatever the case is. Like, I don't think she should have done that if she didn't want to. And even like, you know, a lot of this was back when like Kyle was cheating on her. And I'm like, you know, I do think she did too much for the relationship and now is sort of paying the price and is like WTF. And I think Kyle needs to like, he needs to recognize that and just let her spread her wings. And I think he feels insecure when she wants to like spread her wings. But I think actually if he let her do that, he would find there's a lot more security and she feels more at peace and like she can like she has her own voice, and then that would like strengthen their bond.
I'm going to leave my job to support the man that I love and help him achieve his dreams and his goals. And we're going to do it together.
And I don't think he would have done the same for her.
So I need a little more help.
One reason why I'm like not trying to like jump into bed with you is I know that I'm probably gonna catch feelings, and I'm not trying to like beat someone there before
Good for her.
and end up with the short end of the stick, because that's happened before. And so
I do think she recreated that pattern, but
are you talking to other girls?
Damn, bro. I haven't like cut off
oh
every single
god,
chick I've ever texted
like
before.
to me this is the point where she should have cut him off. She should have stopped seeing him. You know, when a guy wants to be with you, they will. Like, if he really was, like, interested in Sierra in a more serious way, he would have stopped talking to other girls. Or they would have had this conversation, and he would have, like, instantly cut those people off and really pursued her more seriously. And the fact that he didn't, and she still, like, saw him and, they were still like involved, even if it was like not to a large degree. I think she still let those feelings grow, and I think that was the mistake that she ultimately made. And yeah, rough.
I can't like do that.
We continue to trigger each other and hurt each other. And I don't want to live like that. We are supposed to be married in 2.5 months. And I'm not ready to do that.
Okay, well, there's no more points of this conversation. You've made the decision clear.
I'm always going to lose. I mean, she's going to spin and tell everybody she's blindsided, she's caught off guard. I'm going to be the asshole.
Well, with that, that's the end of the recap. And, you know, as I said in part 1, I think ultimately they just were not right for each other. And at this point in their lives, they may have been like a year or two prior, but I just don't think they were on the same page. And I think needed and wanted different things from each other. And, you know, they just had like core differences. And that was what led to him calling off the wedding. And I think that was the right decision. So it'll be really interesting. I think everyone's been speculating about what it's going to be like in the house with, well, it's the first like pregnant cast member that we've had. Although actually, no, I don't know if that's true, because I think maybe Ashley Workus was pregnant in one season, maybe. But other than, I mean, like that was like not really here nor there, just because like she was married to like her college sweetheart who was not on the show and whatever. But having Lindsay be pregnant in the house with Carl and them not being together, I do think it'll be interesting to see it play out. And from every interview and everything that everyone has said to the press, it seems like things actually went very smoothly and they had a really good summer, and Carl and Lindsay weren't really like in the center of the drama even, and were like able to be cordial, and you know, it was great and wonderful, and he's happy for her and she's happy for herself. So I think it's going to be interesting though, just to actually watch it play out. And yeah, I mean, I've watched the trailer obviously, so I feel like I know somewhat what to expect this season, but at the same time, as I said in part 1, which is like over an hour ago at this point, I feel like this is kind of a pivotal season, and last season was like kind of marking a changing point, and it'll be interesting to see how things actually are now. And even now that Craig and Paige have split up, and I think we're gonna see the splinters even more in their relationship this season, it's just gonna be interesting. And the last thing I'll say is I will miss seeing Danielle this season, but I know she'll be kind of like a friend of, so we will still see her a little bit, but I hope that she just like figures out her stuff. And because I do think she's a great addition to the show, and I think brings something just different than the other cast members. And yeah, so with that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.